The sea has always been a place where order and chaos collide. For centuries, pirates and naval powers have clashed across oceans, from the Caribbean to the Horn of Africa. But rarely do those clashes unfold in the modern age with the intensity of what happened one afternoon when a U.S. Navy destroyer found itself squaring off against a fleet of heavily armed pirates. What began as a routine patrol quickly transformed into a 2-hour battle that tested nerves, technology, and the centuries-old tradition of seafaring combat. The destroyer in question was the USS Jackson, a sleek warship bristling with weaponry and technology, capable of projecting power thousands of miles from home. On that day, the ship was operating in the Gulf of Aden, a region long notorious for pirate activity. Naval patrols had pushed many pirate groups into hiding, but desperate times and organized syndicates had given rise to new fleets, better armed and more coordinated than the ragtag skiff crews of years past. Intelligence chatter had suggested that something larger was brewing, but no one expected it to escalate this quickly. At 0600 hours, the radar picked up multiple small vessels moving in a loose formation. They were fast-moving skiffs, the type pirates favored, light, nimble, and difficult to hit. But there weren't just one or two. There were nearly a dozen, spread wide to test the destroyer's reaction. The watch officer sounded the alarm, and within minutes the crew was at their battle stations. The captain of the Jackson, Commander Robert Hensley, strode onto the bridge with calm authority. He had drilled for this scenario countless times, but drills never fully matched the reality of hostile intent approaching fast. The destroyer moved to intercept, engines humming as it cut through the waves. Over the ship's loudspeakers, a warning was broadcast in multiple languages: turn back or face fire. The pirates ignored it. Instead, they surged forward, accelerating in a coordinated push that showed this wasn't just opportunistic raiding. This was an ambush designed to test the Navy itself. Hensley gave the order to fire warning shots. The ship's 5-inch gun barked once, sending a thunderous round into the sea ahead of the skiffs. The water erupted in a geyser of spray. Any reasonable vessel would have turned away, but the pirates pressed on. Some even raised rifles and rocket-propelled grenades, their figures tiny against the backdrop of the ocean, but unmistakably aggressive. At that moment, the 2-hour clash began. The destroyer's strategy was simple in principle, but complicated in execution. Maintain distance, prevent boarding attempts, and disable the pirate craft without escalating into full-scale slaughter. The pirates, on the other hand, relied on speed, numbers, and fearlessness. They spread wide, forcing the Jackson's gunners to swing back and forth, tracking multiple fast-moving targets. The first exchange came when one of the pirate skiffs loosed a burst of machine gun fire at the destroyer's bow. The rounds pinged harmlessly off the armored hull, but it was symbolic. They were here to fight. The Jackson responded with its close-in weapon system, a terrifying wall of rapid-fire rounds designed to shred incoming threats. A stream of tracers stitched across the waves, cutting dangerously close to the skiff until the pirates veered away. Another skiff launched an RPG, the rocket streaking toward the destroyer before slamming into the water just short of the hull. The explosion rocked the waves but did no damage. Still, it was a reminder. These pirates were not amateurs. The first 30 minutes were a test of endurance. The destroyer's gunners picked off one skiff, then another, using precision fire to disable engines and leave the boats dead in the water. Helicopters scrambled from the ship's deck, Blackhawks and Seahawks roaring into the air, their rotors thumping as they swooped low over the pirates. Snipers leaned out, picking targets with calm precision. A single shot could take out an engine, leaving a skiff drifting helplessly. The pirates tried to scatter, but the coordination between ship and air support kept them boxed in. By the 1-hour mark, the battle had escalated into a deadly chess match. The pirates regrouped, circling like sharks, looking for any gap in the destroyer's defenses. The Jackson shifted course constantly, using its bulk to create wake turbulence that tossed smaller skiffs off balance. At one point, 3 pirate boats made a daring run straight at the destroyer's starboard side, hoping to get close enough to launch grappling hooks. They were met with ferocious resistance. Heavy machine gun fire raked across the waves, shredding the sides of the boats and forcing survivors to leap overboard. Still, more skiffs pressed in. Inside the Combat Information Center, radar screens glowed with blips representing hostile vessels. Every sailor worked with icy focus, calling out bearings, distances, and trajectories. The ship's electronic warfare suite jammed pirate radios, sowing confusion. Some skiffs spun aimlessly, their crews shouting into dead static. Others seemed to grow more reckless, firing blindly as if sheer aggression might break through. The psychological battle was just as fierce. The pirates knew they couldn't sink a destroyer, but their goal wasn't destruction. It was spectacle, chaos, and the slim chance of boarding. For them, even capturing a handful of sailors could mean ransom money and global headlines. For the Navy, allowing that to happen was unthinkable. The turning point came around 90 minutes into the clash. A pirate mothership, a larger vessel towing fuel and supplies, emerged on the horizon. It was the command hub, the heart of the fleet. If it remained, the skiffs could rearm and refuel indefinitely. Hensley made the call. The Jackson's main gun swiveled, locked, and fired. The shell screamed across the water and detonated against the mothership's hull. The explosion tore through steel and sent fire and smoke billowing skyward. Within minutes, the mothership was ablaze, its crew leaping into the sea. With their command center gone, the pirates faltered. Some turned tail, racing back toward the horizon. Others kept fighting, unwilling to abandon the assault, but their movements grew desperate. Helicopters pursued, marking targets with infrared lasers as the destroyer's gunners finished the job. One by one, the skiffs were disabled or abandoned, their crews left clinging to debris. By the 2-hour mark, silence returned. Smoke drifted across the waves, mingling with the smell of burning fuel. The sea was littered with wreckage, splintered skiffs, floating barrels, and men clinging to makeshift rafts. Navy sailors began rescue operations, pulling survivors from the water. Though they had come as enemies, the laws of the sea demanded aid. Prisoners were taken aboard, bound and questioned. Some were defiant, others shaken into silence. The confrontation had ended decisively, but the aftermath carried weight. International headlines soon blared. U.S. Navy destroyer defeats pirate fleet in 2-hour battle. Analysts debated the meaning. Some hailed it as proof that naval power remained unmatched, that modern pirates could never hope to challenge a destroyer. Others worried that the pirates' boldness signaled a dangerous trend: better weapons, stronger coordination, and the willingness to take on the world's most powerful navy. For the crew of the Jackson, the memory lingered. The adrenaline of battle, the sight of tracers streaking across the waves, the thunder of the 5-inch gun. For young sailors, it was a baptism by fire. For veterans, it was confirmation that even in the modern era, piracy was no relic of the past. The sea was still contested, and vigilance was never optional. Investigations later revealed that the pirate fleet had backing from shadowy syndicates, groups that saw piracy not as random banditry, but as a form of economic warfare. The mothership carried not only weapons but encrypted communications equipment, maps of shipping routes, and ledgers tracking ransoms and cargoes. This wasn't desperation, it was organized crime with global reach. The Jackson's 2-hour confrontation became a case study in naval academies, dissected for lessons on modern asymmetric warfare. It showed how a warship could balance overwhelming firepower with restraint, how technology and training combined to dominate even against swarming tactics. It also showed the fragility of sea lanes, the razor's edge on which global trade balanced. For the pirates who survived, prison awaited. But for those who escaped, the legend grew. Around campfires in coastal villages, stories were told of the day a fleet of skiffs dared to challenge a destroyer. Some painted it as folly, others as courage. Either way, the sea had witnessed it, and history would remember. And so, in just 2 hours, the clash of a destroyer and a pirate fleet reminded the world of an old truth. The ocean is never truly safe, and every horizon carries both promise and peril.